Now, one of the most amazing surahs of the Quran. All of them are amazing. But let's go to Ankabut, which is surah number 29. Would you like to go there, please? Now, the moment you think of Surah Al-Ankabut, you first think that when you say anything, you're tested. You know, even in life, if somebody tells you, I love you, it's not enough. That's why the Prophet said, live with them, travel with them, or work with them, and you'll find out what they're like. So all these people, and sorry to break illusions for the younger ones, who buy you chocolates and roses on Valentine's Day, that's quite cool, and the cards. But to prove it, it takes a lot. Love is something that has to be proven. So here the mission statement is, I believe. And he's not going to, he says, I put you through things to find out whether you really believe or not, just so you know you believe or you don't. He knows. But it's, so first thing is a mission statement. Second thing about Surah Al-Ankabut is that this justifies why the Prophet did hijrah to Medina. Because if you want to know a surah that tells you or why he did hijrah, why would he move from his home place Makkah to a place like Yathrib, or it became Madinatul Munawwara? Why would you move? Why would you and I even move anywhere? It's quite hard. So that's one thing, it justifies what you did. The third thing this surah does, it shows you the fragility of the human being. We are so fragile. You and me don't even know whether we're going to walk down the stairs. We really don't know what's going to happen to us. Everything we own, we don't know whether it's going to stay with us on. Our ecosystem, our outside world, it's really fragile. COVID taught us that. This tiny thing that you and I couldn't see made us stay at home, wear masks, keep away from each other. Even family couldn't come and visit. Tiny little thing. Yet it changed everything. That's how fragile we are. Okay, so the moment you think of Surah Al-Ankabut, yes, you will think of the spider, you will think of its web, you will think of fragility, we'll come to it in a minute, but you'll think why they did hijrah. And third thing, every single statement you make, whether it is to a human being, but more so to Allah, will be tested. It will be tested. I will be with you life and death. Mom, you know, Mom, I'll never leave you at all. Mom falls sick. All right, a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months. Oh God, why is she getting better? You may not tell her, but you're telling yourself. Now it's getting a bit difficult, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you get what I'm trying to say. So the first thing we're going to look at is the first few ayat. Okay, so let's look at Ankabut. I'm just going to turn my page to it. Oh, by the way, Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, if you recite Ankabut and Rum, recite means 5 things. Ikra means 5 things. Read, internalize. Come on, you got to teach me. No? Understand, apply, and teach. You got it? Read, internalize, understand, apply, and teach. If you did for Ankabut and Rum, you are definitely Ahlul Jannah. And he says, Wala aqulu inshallah. I don't even say inshallah. So it's not rocket science to learn it. You know, when we have the children's classes at 4 o'clock, when we finish Ankabut, you have the little ones telling you, halfway to Jannah, can we do the other half? And they are so confident they will get to Jannah. So we should be the same thing. Can you imagine going into your grave and they say, what did you do? I did Ankabut and Rum on Laylatul Qadr. Don't touch me. I'm Ahlul Jannah. That is the confidence a human being should have. Are you good? Don't smile at me. Okay, cool. I'm glad you got it. Right, let's start. Alif Lam Mim. Ahasiban nas. Do human beings think? Okay. An yutraku. Taraka, they will be left, that we will leave them alone. And yakulu amanna, when they say we believe. Believe means to trust. I trust you. I trust you, God. I know everything you say is right. Wahum la yuftanun, and we will not test them. Fitna is called test, not Gujarati or Urdu, Arabic. Fitna is when you purify gold. The only way to purify gold is to burn off the impurities. It'll be tough. The testing will be tough. Fitna is a test. There's another test in the Quran, which is ibtila or bala. Bala is to get at you so much till you're worn down. You say, okay, khalas, I don't want to know anymore. Right? I've had it, done. That's bala. And then you have ahzab, which is purification. But here he says, you will be tested. So if you and I are tested, that's what life does. That's what he does, to find out whether you believe or not. Did you give up on me or not? Okay. وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ بِهِمْ. So if you think you're the only ones that were tested, he's saying, we tested those before you as well. That is why read the Quran and you'll find out, مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ, those before you. فَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ. So Allah knows, in other words, you know yourself, who sadaqa, who is telling the truth, وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ الْكَاذِبِينَ, and who is lying. Very many times, and this is something that goes on and on, people say, well, this happened to me because I did something wrong. What did I do wrong that this should happen to me? Why do bad things happen to good people? You just have to look at what we do. We look at the lives of the prophets and the life of the Aimma. Did Sayyidah Zainab do anything wrong? Did Imam Hussein do anything wrong? Did Ali Asghar do anything wrong? Did Ali Akbar do anything wrong? That's all you got to look at. He didn't. They didn't. So why were they tested so much? He gives the most difficult of tests to the best of his people. You don't give an A-level exam to a nursery school child. You just don't. That's human beings. So can you imagine him? So the more worthy you are, the more the test. So don't let anybody tell you that that's not working. Okay. In fact, you should worry if there's no test. You know, if life's all hunky-dory, you should think, oh my goodness, where did it go? All right. Now this ayah is for today. In other words, today's world from October 2023 to now, this is the ayah that answers it. Do those who do evil, do they think they will get away with it? Sabaka is to run away. You know, like if you were being followed and you got away, you said, Sabaka, I got away. And he's saying, do they think and yasbikuna? Do you think they've got away? Sa'a ma yahkumun. It is evil that if they think they have got away. If you and I thought we got away with that little bit of gossip we did, or that little thing we did that was wrong, it's being watched. So sort it out now. So when people say, well, what's happening in the world, isn't God watching? But you know, he gave you and me free will. And this is for me to know. I'm never going to get away with anything. In outside language, they call it karma. It's exactly the same thing. You won't get away with it. So best to analyze ourselves before Ramadan and sort it out and say, I'm sorry. Hard, but easier. Okay. Man kana yarju liqa Allah. Alika is such a beautiful word. It's like one of the most beautiful words of the Quran. If you hope, when you say to meet Allah, basically, you know, you say, Ya ayatun nafsul mutma'inna irji ila rabbiki radiyatam mardiya. This is Surah Fajr, right at the end, the last 4 ayat. This is where it comes in. If you want that sort of thing, that you have divinity, you know, there's divinity in you. You just have to bring it out. فَإِنَّ عَجْلَ اللَّهُ لَعَاتٍ. He says it'll definitely come. وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. Hopefully one day we'll do Asma'ul Husna, so you've got Sami and Alim. If you feel you're not heard, if you feel you want him to hear you with your du'as, always Sami'ul Alim or Sami'ul Basir, please, okay? All right. وَمَنْ جَاهَدَ. If you strive, if you try hard, it's very difficult, but you're trying hard. فَإِنَّمَا يُجَاهِدُ لِنَفْسِهِ. You're only doing it for yourself. However, لِنَفْسِهِ has 2 parts to it. When you and I do something, it could be absolutely anything in the world. We either do it for the dunya or we do it for the akhirah. Dunya or the akhirah. So it is up to us to know the intention. It's entirely up to every human being. Why am I doing this thing? Am I doing it to show people? Am I doing it for something? And it's okay to do it for the dunya. If I'm doing something for the dunya in the sense I'm cooking, cleaning, whatever, that's fine. But I could just change the niyyah and say, I'm cooking for the akhirah, in which case I don't expect anything from anyone. I'm expecting it from him. There are ulama or scholars that never did anything for the dunya. So even if they ate, their niyyah was, I'm eating to get strength so I may serve humanity. So it's how I think, it's my mindset, it's how I change it. So he says, whatever you do, it's li nafsihi, and it's up to you whether you're thinking of dunya or akhirah. Inna Allah la ghaniyun anil alameen. Allah does not need anything. You're not, when you're doing, say, I'm doing it for Allah, you're not. You're doing it for yourself. 90% of the time we say, well, Allah matika ruchu. Are you serious? It doesn't need you. You need it. Okay, so that's basically what he's saying here, right? وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, and those who believe. We've done this before a lot of times, but here it's a different twist to it. وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, and they do good deeds. By the way, you have a sticker with tests and striving, and you can put them there. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ لَنُكَفِّرَنَّ عَنْهُمْ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ, we will cover up all their sayyat, all their bad deeds. وَلَنَجْزِيَنَّهُمْ أَحْسَنَ الَّذِي كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ, and we will reward them for the best they did. Now this is talking about Makkah. I'm going to come back to the ayat that I've done before because I need to talk about it. But the Makkans, there was no prayer, there was no fasting. This all came in Medina. So in Makkah, there were no rules like that. No prayers, no fasting, no hijab, no beard, there was nothing really. So here, what is the good deeds they did? And it's a thought process. Because here they're told, if you believe and you do, their good deeds was basically just listening and sticking to the Prophet. Being able to believe in the Prophet. That was their good deeds. Now let me go back a little bit before I go to number 8. So when he said that he would test you, when were these ayat revealed? Now what the Makkans did, I'm going to go through a little bit of history so you understand this a bit. So the first thing they did was, when the Prophet introduced Islam, they said, that's a crazy man. What's wrong with him? He's going totally against tradition, against our traditions. So for a little while, they left him alone. Then, when people started taking notice of him and they started believing in him, they thought, oh my God, but they thought that the only people who were following him were not the rich, were not the educated. These were people who thought with their hearts. So these were the lower class as such. So they said, this will be a phase. Then they saw the youth going towards the Prophet, and they said, oh my goodness, now this is getting to be a bit of a problem. And the leaders started noticing, and they said, we can't have this. So what they did was they started negotiating with them. Surah Al-Kafirun. They said, we will do a bit of your religion, we will take a bit of yours, and we'll take a bit of ours. He said, sorry, lakum dinukum waliya din, no compromise. So now they thought, oh my goodness, we got to do something. So their media machine came into practice, and they started slandering him. They called him a magician. They called him somebody who was a poet. They called him all sort of different names, a soothsayer, because they didn't want the men, women, and the children following him. When they saw that wasn't working, and they saw that the people who even believed kept quiet, they thought, now is our chance to do some physical violence. And you can see it in the world today. And this is where, for Bilal, for example, they put a boulder on him. You know that? Bilal was put on the hot sand and a boulder, and all he said was, Ahadun, Ahad. Then there was Khabab ibn Arat. Khabab ibn Arat, in fact, some Mufassirin say that these ayat, or the first few ayat, were revealed because of him. They took him to a blacksmith, and they put the iron rods on his back. His skin peeled off, and he came to the Prophet, and he said, I believe. Is this what happens when you believe? And these ayat were revealed. And the other person that these ayat are for the family of Yasir and Sumayya. They had Ammar Yasir, and Yasir and Sumayya were killed. She's the first woman Shahida that was killed. So this historical bit, and now you know why the Hijrah was so important. So the first thing they did was this physical violence towards the Muslims, and people could hear the screams of the people, of those who were tortured. Are you good with that section? Now we go to the next section. That talks about parents, 29:8. Now here, I need to go into history so you understand it a bit, and I've written it down. So Sa'ad ibn Waqqas was a young boy. Sa'ad lived with his mother, single mom, really loved him to bits. And Sa'ad, when he heard the Prophet, that was it. He was convinced. His mom used psychological torture. Because his mom said, and moms do this a lot, by the way, she said, if you don't change back to the religion of our forefathers, I'm not going to eat. She went on a starvation diet. And she said, Saad, do you want to see your mother die? Saad, is that what you want? You want to see Mama die, don't you? And Saad didn't know what was going on. And this ayah was revealed. وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حُسْنًا. And we have, it is, when they say وَوَصَّيْنَا, it's like wasiya, we will enjoin. It is wajib on human beings for their parents to be good to their parents. And I talked about this a little while ago when we did the ayah. وَإِن جَاهَدَاكَ. However, if they strive, لِتُشْرِكَ بِهِ, they strive to the fact that you should associate somebody with me, with Allah, مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ إِلْمٍ, because they don't know any better. فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا, do not follow them. إِلَيَّ مَرْجِعُكُمْ, because you have to return to Allah. فَأُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ, and He will tell you what you did. But that doesn't mean you're going to be rude to her. You're going to be as nice as possible. You will try to explain to her in the best possible way. I won't tell you what happened to Sa'd ibn Waqas. You will find out for yourself, but hopefully that will give you a chance to look into it. But basically, he was able to talk to his mama. And any moms out here, I was going to use an example, but not today, maybe some other time, a little later, because I can see the mama sitting here and she'll get pretty mad at me. So we can do that. I'll just use one for Ramadan, because she's not here, and I've asked her beforehand before I could use it. So we have 4 o'clock classes at Ramadan, as you know. You can all come, by the way. So we had this child, one Ramadan, a few years ago, and she came back from school. She was barely 5. I've talked about her before. And she just collapsed, literally collapsed. So the teachers called me because they were scared of giving her water. I'm not very scared. So I gave her some water, and I sat her up. And she said, now I'm going to go to Jahannam. That's it. I didn't want that water. You've taken me to Jahannam, all the rest of it. I said, you're not going to go to Jahannam. Even if you were baligh, I'd have done the same thing. You're not no, but don't tell my mama. I said, I have to tell your mama. So when mama came and I said I gave her water, oh my goodness. She said, how dare you do that? How dare you do that to my daughter? Now my daughter will have to fast for 3 months in a row, blah, 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 all the rest of it. Where did this come from? What sort of religion do you and I follow? There's something wrong with us. If this is the religion we follow, then I'm sorry, but something is definitely wrong, okay? So you can see the comparisons here. And that's why Ankabut in Ramadan, by the way. It's one of the reasons. Okay, we'll move on. 29:12. Okay. So now, what 2 pressures were there? There was psychological torture, and the other one was physical torture. Now you have peer pressure. وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, those who cover up the truth. Let's see what they did. لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, they tell those who believe, اتَّبِعُوا سَبِيلَنَا. Sabilana is different pathways. Follow our ways. وَلْنَحْمِلْ خَطَايَاكُمْ. And if you think that you're going to get into trouble, don't worry, we'll take your sins away from you. Whatever you think you're worried about, we will take it all away. وَمَا هُمْ بِحَامِلِينَ مِنْ خَطَايَاهُمْ مِنْ شَيْءٍ إِنَّهُمْ لَكَاذِبُونَ. They will never carry anybody else's loads. They're liars. So basically what they did was there was this peer pressure. Come, whatever you did, come party with us, come drink with us, come do whatever you want with us. And don't worry, we will bear the sins. If you say that there's some sort of sin process, we will bear it. We will bear any problems that you have. We will be accountable for it. And he's saying, they're lying. Nobody's going to bear anybody else's sins. So this was now social pressure. They were told, if you do not do what we do, then you know what? Natbar. And it chucked out of Stanmore. Okay? You get. Oh, you're smiling. Okay. Right. And he says, look what's going to happen to them. That's why you've got a sticker of a person with a boulder on his back, okay? وَلَيَحْمِلُنَّ أَثْقَالَهُمْ وَأَثْقَالًا مَعَ أَثْقَالِهِمْ. Not only will they carry their own burdens, but Allah will increase their burden, the weight on their backs. Not with this other person's sins, but because of what they said. وَلَيُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أَمَّا كَانُوا يَفْتَرُونَ. And on the day of Qiyamah, we will ask them for what they lied about. Very often, and this is a practical problem we have, say you're sitting on the table with a family and you start talking about somebody. And your child has learnt in madrasa that this is ghiba. So your child, and because we teach them not to talk back at their parents, and we tell them, just get off the table and go away, and let mom come and ask you why you've left your food and gone away in a private place, and then say, I cannot sit there because you're talking about someone. Mom will say, it's okay. We're just talking. That's not talking. When I grew up, and if we ever dared to say anything, my grandmother will say, can you change all the water here? Because that water has got the vibes of Ghiba in it. So all the water would go to the plants, and I would say, but the plants will die. She said, don't be cheeky. But she would change the water if you so much as mentioned someone. Okay? So this is something that, it's a practical thing that happens in our lives all the time. But if you and I say, well, this is just talking, and don't worry, your teacher at madrasa is just saying what she's reading in the book. No, she's not. She's telling you exactly what's in the Quran. Okay? Right, 41. Favorite ayah. I love this ayah. Now, in between now and 41, what I've done is you will find historical examples of Nuh, Ibrahim, and you will find those. Lut, Ishaq, Yaqub, Shu'aib, and Ad, Thamud, and Musa, and I've colored them in yellow. So if you want to have a look at my Quran, you can have a look later. And it's just so I remember those prophets, right? So you can have a look at them. But let's look at ayah 41, because that's basically what this surah is about. Mathalul ladhina, the example, and this is the start of parables in the Quran. So a lot of parables starts here in Ankabut. So he says, Mathalul ladhina, the example of those, ittakhadhu min dunillah, who take besides Allah awliya. Awliya is somebody you're inclined towards. And I talked about this before. I'll give you an example. If I put in a room a plant, and I close the door, and there's a window, you will find that the plant will incline towards the window. That is why you say, Aliyun waliyullah. Imam Ali is inclined towards divinity. So it's a simple methodology of what you incline towards. So he says, if you are inclined towards anything other than Allah, then kamathalil ankabut. It's like you are a spider. What does a spider do? Ittakhadhat baytan. His whole security is around his house, his web. Now the web that the spider builds is quite amazing, because if you read about it, the tensile strength of each of those strands is really strong. It's more than steel. Yet, وَإِنَّ أَوْهَنَ الْبُيُوتِ لَبَيْتُ الْأَنْكَبُوتِ. The most fragile of things is the house of the Ankabut. However, in an earthquake, you will find webs. In a storm, you will find webs. They're that strong. However, brush it aside and it's gone. So he's saying, think about it. لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. Do you know how frail it is? What does a spider do? In this web, he catches innocent insects. I was going to say people. Innocent insects, and he eats them up. And he thinks, this is where I get my food from, this is where I get everything off. But you and I just brush it aside and it goes away. And that's exactly what it's about. I'm going to give you an example so you don't forget. I had a neighbor. And my neighbor was an old lady who collected, she didn't have any children, so she collected lots of trinkets from whatever country she visited. My children were very young, and she would sit near the window, and she would like us to visit. So when we went to visit, before we went, I would tell them, don't go near her things. You know how you say her shelf is all little trinkets, and you don't go near them. And they would sit there and think, have you ever tried to say no to a child? And they just look at that longingly and think, when can I touch that thing? And you say, no, that's not going to be there. So she wouldn't, no, that's whatever. She got very ill. Her husband died. She got very ill. She was taken to a respite home. She died. One day, I heard all this noise, and I was looking outside my house, and there was a skip. And that whole shelf, they tipped out into the skip because they were emptying the house. And she had looked after each little piece. Most of her day was spent cleaning those bits. And that's exactly what this is talking about. If you and I will focus on things or what we acquire, then we are inclined just like the spider. Okay, just remember my neighbor. And remember her in your du'as. She is phenomenal. Okay, 45. I love this as well. Utlu ma uhiya ilayka min al-kitab. Utlu tilawa. You know what tilawa is, right? To recite. Recite. Tilawa means to follow. Recite, follow, understand, all the rest of it. So recite. Uhiya, wahi, what was revealed to you from the book. Wa aqimis salah. It didn't say pray salah. It says establish salah. Iqama actually means to make a building stand. That's why when you stand, you say bihawlillahi wa quwwatihi aqumu wa aqud. It's something that makes it stand. It's where, and a building will only stand if the foundation is strong. So he's saying establish salah. Now, what does salah do? And you hear this in majalis all the time. Inna salah tanha anil fahshai wal munkar. Salah will, in essence, keep you away from shamelessness, which is fahsha. Munkar is all sorts of evil. وَلَذِكْرُ akbar. And to remember him is greater. وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ مَا تَصْنَعُونَ. And he's using a building word again. Sana'a is to manufacture. Allah knows what you manufacture. So basically he's saying, and I will verse this differently. I try to write it down a bit difficultly. If my salah does not keep me away from shamelessness, if my salah does not keep me away from all kinds of evil, then there is a problem in the architectural structure of my building. I need to modify it. Now I'm a Koji, very proud to be one, I say all the time. However, I learned to pray salah without understanding it. So if somebody asks me, what are you saying? I tell the children this all the time. I'll repeat it again. I tell the children, say you had a really good friend, not a Muslim, came home and you said, azan, salah time, I'm going to pray. And she says, oh my goodness, you're so religious. And I say, I pray on time. So they say, can I watch you? I say, yeah, sure. Come sit near me. And I'm going, whatever I'm doing, up, down, finish. What did you say? Don't know. I really don't know. I'm talking to my God, but I don't know what I said. So in Ramadan, if you don't learn anything, at least learn what you're saying in Salah. If we don't learn anything, at least learn these surah that we're going to recite, which are going to take us to Jannah. And that's basically what this is trying to say. We've got to understand. Otherwise, if it does not keep me away from anything wrong, then definitely there's a problem in the construction, and I got to change it. It's questionable. The building is very questionable. And if it was being inspected, oh my goodness, we'd have serious problems. It would fall down. Okay, all right. 50. Ayah number 50. Okay, you've got a... Now, ayah number 50 says, وَقَالُوا, they say, لَوْلَا أُنزِلَ عَلَيْهِ آيَةً مِّن رَبِّي. Why is there not something magical coming down from the skies? Some signs from the skies. Kul innamal ayatu indallah. Signs are all from Allah. Innama ana nadhirun mubin. I only say what I'm told, and I'm warning you about things that will, if they go wrong, I'll tell you what to do. Now this is the sign, he says. So what's wrong with you? Awalam yakfihim anna anzalna alaykal kitab. Isn't it enough for you that you have the book with you? So when they ask for a sign, Allah's reply is, isn't this book enough for you? Why aren't you looking at this book? Yutla alayhim. It was recited upon you. Inna fi dhalika la rahmatan wa dhikra liqaumin yu'minun. And this book provides two things. Loving mercy is guidance as such. And dhikra, it's a powerful reminder. If your Quran is not annotated, if your Quran is not something you're going through, then time to do it in the month of Ramadan. You cannot have a pristine Quran. You just cannot. If you came to my kitchen, then the children have bought all these cookery books. Have you got them? Cabernet, the last one they bought me was from Nadia. Is someone called Nadia? Some person there, yeah. And then because I like Wagamama, they got me the Wagamama book. Okay? But the only one that has got flour and oil and is used is the one that belonged to my mama, and it had recipes for mambris in it, or recipes of rotli in it, or whatever, right? But you can tell which book is well used. You can come to my kitchen, and if you had to look at them, you will know which one is used and which one has not even been opened because it's so pristine. Mama, because you like Wagamama, we gave you Wagamama. Thank you very much, but I'm not going to use it. So that sort of thing. So in the same way, your Quran must be one that is so well used, it looks like it's been thumbed through, right? Are you good? Okay. Next one, 56. I like this one. So you have a picture of an earth. Ya ibadi alladhina amanu. Oh, my servant. Servant's such a beautiful word. I look after you. You submitted to me. I'm your Lord. I look after everything you do. I'm your Rabb. Inna ardiya wasiya. My world is so big. I mean, what's wrong with you when you say, oh, I can't do it because I'm too busy, I'm too this, I'm too... He says the world inside you and outside you is so big. It's wasi, it's vast. You can't say that. For iyaya fa'budun, all I'm asking you to do is submit to me. That's all I'm asking you to do. And you don't make excuses, because my world is amazing. My earth is vast. That's all. Go wherever you need to. Just submit to me. Take your time. Don't say you don't have time. Anybody who says they don't have time is lying. What did you do the whole night? Slept. Evening, Netflix. I don't know. I'm just giving an example. Okay, it's me. I'm not talking about you. Okay. So you've got a sticker of the world. And then obviously you know this one, kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. But I'm going to put another spin to this, okay? Dha'iqa does not mean every nafs will taste death. It says every nafs is already tasting death. Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. Every breath I take is the last breath died. Every breath I take. My toddlerhood died, my teenagehood died, my middle age died. I'm getting old. They call me a senior now. I'm 66. I actually get a pension now. Oh, it's really good. Okay. I get to chill. I get the children saying, my grandson says, Nani, you're 66. My goodness, Nani, you're ancient. I am. Okay. But all that died. All that died. And kullu nafsin za'iqatul maut. We are tasting death. Thumma ilayna turja'un. Let me give you another thing to think about, which I was listening to today. When an animal dies, it's worth a lot. Skin, meat, yes? What happens when a human being dies? Value? Zero. If you want to even harvest their organs, you got to keep them alive. Tanaffus, yes? You got to make them breathe artificially. But the moment that person dies, you can't even harvest their organs. Their value is zero. An animal is worth more than you and me. I was reading somewhere that a blue tuna fish was sold for $3.1 million. Right? Dead tuna fish. And at the same time, in Singapore, a billionaire's son who was 41 died. That dead fish, $3.1 million. That billionaire's son, zero. So, kullu nafsin za'iqatul maut. Before I get to the zero, I got to do something valuable. That's what this is trying to say. So, ma ilayna turjan. What am I going to go and tell him? What have I done? Right? Okay. Next one, 2965. Still got a little bit of time. Oh, I love this. You've got a ship there, haven't you? فَإِذَا رَكِبُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. So when they ride in the ships, and this is sailing ships and airships as well, دَعَوْا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ. And remember, when people traveled at that time, even today, we either travel for holiday, which is because we are spending what we have earned, or most people who are frequent flyers travel because of business. Holiday people are not frequent flyers. Frequent flyers, unless they're old like me, okay? But frequent flyers are normally people who are business people. So it says, فَإِذَا رَكِبُوا فِي الْفُلْكِ. When they're frequent flyers and they're traveling, they pray, even if they don't believe. They say, whoever you are, even if you're nature, مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ فَلَمَّا نَجَّاهُمْ. If you bring me safely on land, إِلَى الْبَرِّ إِذَا هُمْ يُشْرِكُونَ. I will do anything. But the moment they they get on land, khalas, they forget. They go back to ushriku. They go back to doing shirk. And he says, لِيَكْفُرُوا بِمَا آتَيْنَاهُمْ. And they cover up the truth about him. وَلِيَتَمَتَّوْا. He says, enjoy that little bit of time. فَسَوْفَ يَعْلَمُونَ. You will soon find out. Just imagine for a minute, and I talked about it one time before, that you're stuck on Warren Lane here. Is it Warren Lane? What's it called? It's Warren Lane, isn't it? Say you're stuck here, nobody in the mosque, car suddenly stopped, it's pitch black, it's dark. What are you going to do? You come out of the car, you're scared of coming out because you hear all these things from the trees on either side. Oh, it's happened before. Torch doesn't work, light doesn't work, car is stuck there. What you going to do? Please, Ya Allah, just send Sayyid Bhai over, okay? Do something. Phone doesn't work, no signal, Stanmore is really bad. So what you going to do? You come out of the car and you hear a noise, you go back in, close the door, right? This is what you will do, and this is what he's trying to say. Okay, so before that happens, there we go. All right, last one, 69. Okay. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا. Those who strive in our path, and I'll talk about this path in a minute. لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. The moment you say, the path I want to take is the path of divinity, I will show you so many different ways, he says. Do you remember what ayah we did in Surah Al-Fatiha? اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Sirat is only one. You know that. There's no plural of Sirat. Sirat is wide. Sirat is smooth. Sirat is massive. And it's straight down to up. Straight to divinity. When I say down to up, straight to divinity. So he says, the moment you strive on ihdina sirat al-mustaqim or sirat al-mustaqim, لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ subulana. Subulana is a plural of sabil. Sabil is a one way. Subulana is, this is because there's whatever, masaib going on. Oh, finished. Okay. So sabil is one, subul is many. I will show you so many different pathways of doing good. Inna Allaha ma'al muhsinin. Muhsinin, Allah is with those who do ihsan, who do good to others. Now you imagine Sirat al-Mustaqim as the highway, as the motorway. So the M25. To join the M25, there's so many little roads. You know that, don't you? Okay, so just imagine, you've got onto the highway, but he says, I'll show you so many different ways of how to get onto there. The moment you make your intention that I want to go onto the highway that leads to divinity. That's it. Make your intention, and I'll show you so many ways. Sabil is known as a local road. So basically what he's trying to say is that I will open numerous ways and numerous opportunities for you, and I will always be with those who do ihsan. I will end, I've got a couple of minutes. I will end with what ihsan is. And I take this from Shaykh Murtaza Mutahari, and in his book, Falsafatuna, Our Philosophy, he says, he explains ihsan. I'll explain it in my words. This is not what he used, but if you read it, you'll get the gist of it. He says, if I had £1, and I gave 50 pence to my neighbor, that is a responsibility. If I had £1 and I gave it all to my neighbor, that is ihsan. That is what ihsan is. I gave what I needed to somebody else. And that's why he says, وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. That is basically what giving is all about. Giving away something that I need myself. Okay. So we've basically come to the end of Surah Al-Ankabut. Okay. Next week, inshallah, we will.
So that's the end for today. Please can we recite Surah Fatiha for all our marhumin, for the shifa of those who are ill, and especially for Umi Auntie, and pray that she can attend tomorrow. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim. غير المغضوب عليهم